Close your eyes for just a second and really imagine this sound, a high-pitched, mechanical scream just tearing through the night, climbing higher and higher into this terrifying, beautiful crescendo. Welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we're going to decode the visceral, super fast-paced, and honestly, utterly fascinating world of the Mazda RX-7. We aren't just looking at a car here, we are doing an autopsy on a total mechanical anomaly and the defiant Japanese engineering soul that actually brought it to life.
9,000 RPM. Now, for a traditional engine, pushing 9,000 revolutions per minute means metal is literally crying out in agony, just begging for mercy. But for the Mazda RX-7, 9,000 RPM isn't the limit. It's right where the magic happens. It's the sheer, dizzying speed of a redlining rotary engine. It delivers power with this smooth, continuous scream that became the absolute heartbeat of underground car culture.
And then, of course, there's the look. Pop-up headlights. Just 3 little words, right? But they instantly evoke a rapid-fire visual for anyone who loves 90s design. Picture that sleek, aerodynamic wedge of the iconic FD3S chassis, cutting through neon-lit streets, its headlights snapping open in the dark like the eyes of a predator waking up. Just an absolute masterpiece of automotive aesthetics.
But beneath that stunning, low-slung hood lay a piece of technology that defied all conventional logic. It was, quite literally, the engine that shouldn't exist. It broke the rules of traditional mechanics, it demanded impossible compromises, and yet, it became an absolute legend. To really understand the RX-7, we have to understand the massive, almost reckless gamble that brought its beating heart to life.
Section 1. The engine that shouldn't exist. Born out of desperation.
Okay, let's dive right into this mechanical heart. To truly grasp why the RX-7 is so incredibly revered, we have to strip away that beautiful chassis and look at the engineering miracle powering it. Enter the 47 Ronin. Now, in Japanese history, the 47 Ronin were these legendary leaderless samurai who took on a seemingly impossible mission of loyalty. And Mazda adopted this exact moniker for a special task force of their own engineers back in the 1960s. The company was facing a massive crisis, and to keep their independence, they needed a technological miracle. So these modern-day Ronin were tasked with perfecting the rotary engine, a wildly experimental design that literally every other automaker had already abandoned as impossible. They took a huge engineering risk, putting the entire survival of the company squarely on their shoulders.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what they were up against. Take your traditional piston engine, the thing that's in almost every car on the road today, right? It relies on heavy cylinders violently pumping up and down, packed full of complex valves and moving parts. But contrast that with the Wankel rotary engine. It is shockingly simplistic. Instead of pistons pumping up and down, it uses a triangular rotor that gracefully spins inside an oval housing. It's a total marvel of smooth, uninterrupted power delivery.
So let's break down how this spinning triangle actually works. The Wankel combustion cycle handles the exact same 4 steps as a normal engine: intake, compression, power, and exhaust. But here's the kicker. The rotary does it in a single, continuous spinning motion. As the triangular rotor turns, the space between its flat sides and the oval housing expands to suck in air and fuel, squeezes it super tight for compression, gets blasted by a spark plug for power, and then pushes the exhaust right out. No valves, no camshafts. Just pure, high-revving rotary magic.
Section 2. The Golden Era of JDM. The Tokyo Underground.
With that miraculous engine finally perfected, let's move to and see how this builds across the timeline of the RX-7 chassis, because it definitely didn't happen overnight. It started with the SA22C in the late 70s, a nimble, lightweight sports car that proved, hey, the rotary could actually work. Then came the FC3S in the 80s, adopting a much sharper, more aggressive, almost cyberpunk kind of design. But the ultimate evolution, the absolute pinnacle of the bloodline, arrived in the neon-drenched 90s, the 3rd generation, the legendary FD3S. And the FD3S wasn't just a car, it was a massive cultural force. Just imagine that gritty, found footage aesthetic of street racing in the 90s. The FD was the undisputed star of the show, drifting through Tokyo at night to the relentless speed of underground Eurobeat music. What made it so incredibly dominant was its staggeringly complex sequential twin-turbo setup, giving it this explosive power right out of the corners. Plus, it possessed an unmatched aesthetic, heavily popularized all over the globe by anime and manga like Initial D. It looked fast, it looked dangerous, and it looked like the future.
But, as we all know, power is absolutely nothing without control. So, the crucial point to take away here is this ratio, 50-50. Because that spinning rotary engine was so incredibly compact and lightweight, Mazda's engineers were able to push it way far back behind the front axle. And what did that do? It resulted in a perfect 50-50 weight distribution between the front and rear of the car. It gave the RX-7 unparalleled, razor-sharp handling on twisty mountain roads. It literally danced around heavier, much more powerful cars with absolute ease, proving once and for all that ultimate street dominance really comes down to perfect balance.
Section 3. The Legend at Le Mans, the ultimate track.
The RX-7 totally conquered the midnight streets, sure, but to truly secure its legacy, Mazda knew the rotary engine had to prove itself on the grandest, most grueling stage in all of motorsport. We are accelerating out of the underground and onto the ultimate track. 1991. If you are an automotive history fan, you need to burn this year into your memory. This was the year a Japanese manufacturer achieved what the entire European racing elite thought was absolutely impossible at the 24 Hours of Le Mans endurance race. Enter the Mazda 787B. Now, while it's not an RX-7, it was the ultimate monstrous evolution of the rotary engine that the 47 Ronin had fought so hard for. Draped in that unforgettable, super cinematic orange and green Argyle livery, the 787B didn't just compete, it absolutely dominated. It secured an undisputed overall victory at Le Mans, completely beating out the piston-powered titans of the world. And it did all of this while producing a sound that literally shook the grandstands. Now, what's really interesting about this achievement is the sheer scale of the power plant, the screaming 26B four-rotor engine. They basically took the twin-rotor heart of the RX-7 and just doubled it. The result was raw, deafening, unadulterated power. It was so fast, so incredibly reliable during that grueling 24-hour race, and so radically different from the competition that the governing bodies actually banned the rotary engine from Le Mans shortly after. It was literally too good.
Section 4. The Legacy and Curse. Fatal Flaws.
But, every bright flame casts a shadow. Let's slow the pacing down for a second and address these fatal flaws objectively. The very things that made the rotary engine a high-revving, track-dominating marvel also sowed the seeds of its ultimate demise in the consumer market. The curse of the RX-7 really came down to three massive issues. First up, emission standards. The unique way a rotary burns fuel and oil meant it simply couldn't keep up with tightening environmental laws. Second, reliability. Remember those triangular rotors we talked about? Well, the tips of those triangles use what are called apex seals to maintain compression. Under high stress, those seals were notorious for failing, which led to catastrophic engine death. And finally, fuel consumption. The rotary drank fuel at an alarming, highly inefficient rate. Sadly, these harsh realities eventually forced Mazda to end the RX-7's truly glorious production run.
And yet, despite the terrible gas mileage, despite the constant lingering fear of blowing an apex seal on the highway, the enthusiast culture never let it die. It remains unequivocally the king of JDM. It has been fully immortalized as a neon-lit, turbo-flaring icon of a bygone era, heavily modified and kept alive by passionate builders all around the world. Builders who are more than willing to put up with all the flaws just to hear that incredible 9,000 RPM scream one more time.
Which leaves us with this final thought to linger on. As we move toward a future filled with silent, sensible, battery-powered vehicles, will the automotive world ever see a massive risk like the RX-7 and its rotary engine again? Will a major car company ever hand the reins over to a modern group of 47 Ronin to build an engine that shouldn't exist, just for the sheer, thrilling joy of it? Just imagine the sound of a final turbo blow-off valve echoing and fading into a dark tunnel. That is the lasting legacy of the Mazda RX-7. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope you walk away with a newfound appreciation for this incredibly unique machine. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.